Guys, coming in for Scream Queen Season 1, Episode 11, Black Friday, and another great episode. Really, guys, all of a sudden this show is on a roll, and I loved it. And you know what? This episode was actually creepy at times. Honestly, there were some creepy moments in this episode. It was genuinely shocking. I thought they had some, they've been really doing some really great shocking moments. I really love this episode, especially the twist at the end of it. We'll get into it. Um and there's a lot to talk. My only thing with this episode is because of how good the show is right now, I am worried that the finale is going to be a bit disappointing for two reasons. One, nobody died on this episode. Well, nobody important, that is. We'll get into probably one of the funniest deaths on the show. We'll get into that. But nobody died, and there are certain characters that are on the show that I still can't believe are alive. I mean, how is Chanel number 5 and number 3 alive? I don't understand. Number 3, I understand, but number 5, I don't understand how she's alive. I don't get it. I mean, we see in this episode she's an idiot. She really is. She's not smart. She really is not smart at all. But let's just get into this episode. There's a lot to talk about, and I really did love Chanel's monologue. I mean, what I like about this monologue is that it was so much different than the Chanel Halloween monologue. The Chanel Halloween monologue, all that told me is that Chanel wants to be looked at as a good person when she's really not. And now that we know more of what Chanel is and more of her character, this did make sense to me why she does this. Basically, because she's rich, obviously she shouldn't have to go to Black Friday, but basically she deliberately buys cheap gifts for her friends as a way to integrate them even more while forcing them to deal with the confusion of receiving something so vile. And I'm talking really weird, cheap shit, probably stuff you'd find at like the dollar store, something like that, like really cheap stuff. And she also enjoys, buying stuff for herself and this I really like though. She also enjoys taunting all those people that are like craning up against the door, waiting for a store to open. Well, she always pays the store owners to go in before, and she tortures them by, trying on everything and testing out all the supplies and things like that. It's really funny, and the thing that worked here is that this was actually funny. This wasn't offensive. There was no racist humor in here. There was no random, like, weird references in here. This was all just in Chanel's character, and that's why it was funny. Chanel Halloween, I never found funny because I just didn't really like Chanel at the time. But now that I really do like Chanel, and I understand the way she is, now I found this a lot funnier. And I thought Emma Roberts did a very good job with this, definitely. Probably Chanel's funniest monologue yet, in my opinion, because the other ones I haven't really liked, and this one I honestly loved. I think it's great. I even like Munsch in this episode. I thought Munsch was really great, even though, I've said she's a bit intolerable. That creepy Munsch we got in, like, episode 7, we get back here, and it worked very well. Munsch comforts Zayde. She's trying to wrap her head around Gigi's head in a platter. They don't know why it's happening. Not only was she disgusted by what she saw, but she's also confused because Gigi's roasted head smelled delicious. And I think that was pretty funny. I mean, she actually thought it smelled good. And while Zayde comes to terms with loving the smell of burned flesh, the Chanels descend the staircase as they make their way to the mall, but Munch stops them. And I like how Munch was trying to be like a motherly figure here, kind of a different kind of Munch than we've seen. I like seeing that. She tries to stop the Chanels from leaving Kappa Kappa Tau at midnight to go door busting for Black Friday, and wonderfully calls Chanel a little bitch and puts her in a timeout. And of course, Chanel's not having any of her words and lets her know that she has no say over Chanel's actions because as it stands, she can't do her job right by stopping a mass murderer on her campus, which is true. I mean, she really hasn't looked... I understand what Chanel's trying to say. She's trying to say, look, you haven't looked out for us yet, so why are you looking out for us now? If Munch wanted to look out for them and really did care about them, she would have helped him out with this killer, but clearly she didn't. Maybe her head just wasn't in it, but all of a sudden it seems like she's trying to be there for them, and it's just too late. They don't want her to be there. So she also reminds Munch that she's suspect number 1 when it comes to being the Red Devil, and they think that she's Red Devil. So with that, they hit the mall, and I thought the entire episode was going to take place in the mall. It doesn't. It only takes place for about, I don't know, like 5 minutes, which was fine. I thought the scene that we got was really great. But then we get this really great scene with Grace, Wes, and Pete because they're actually seeking out the police to get some help regarding Gigi's murder. They have no idea why she was murdered because, they thought that she was the killer. They know that there's two killers out there, obviously, and they thought Gigi was one of them. So at the police station, they find Detective Chisholm, who has pretty much lost it, honestly. At this point, he has lost it. Because apparently the homicide department and the chief of police were all let go due to their failures to find the Red Devil, and because they blew their budget on ghost hunting tools, because he really thought this was a ghost. I mean, he really is an idiot. I mean, really. I don't think this is just that Chisholm's an idiot. I think he's just gone crazy searching for this Red Devil, that now he's just in this dead end, and he's convinced that it's a ghost, and he doesn't want to let up about it. So I thought that was definitely very interesting. I loved Wes's reaction to. I loved Wes's thing where he's talking about what he liked about Gigi. I thought that was definitely funny, and the bond that Wes and Pete have is also great. They seem to just be best friends all of a sudden, which I thought was pretty funny. So the Chanel's made to the mall for their doorbusters, and Chanel gets insight from number 3 about the perfect shitty earrings for other Chanel's. Pissed that Chanel is discussing their gifts no matter how shitty in front of them. Number 5 and Hester suggests that she use her money for more expensive gifts for those she's closest to. Because they got her something that she made, just to be nice to her. And I like seeing that they actually care about her. Despite her treating them like shit, they actually do care. And this kind of makes Chanel think, you know what, maybe it's time for a change. And again, we see this change Chanel here. I understand that, Chanel might be a bitch at heart, but I do feel that just like last week, we do see that she does, at the end of the day, care for them. She does, right here. She said, she decides to buy them matching pink Jeeps for the holidays. As they leave the mall, they notice that it's become deserted and that the lights are slowly shutting off. Now, I was convinced that one of the Chanels was going to get murdered here. I knew that was going to happen. So they find the nearest exit, only to find that it's locked. They also notice the Red Devil staying behind the glass door. Running, they make their way down the escalators, only to see the Red Devil inside the mall already. Luckily, they find a gate that hasn't fully been lowered, though, which they can exit, and each Chanel successfully gets out, but Chanel stays to fight the Red Devil because she is the president of Kappa Kappa Tau, which honestly was a very stupid reason, but I can understand she wants to kind of be the leader here. She decides to go head-to-head with who she thinks is Munsch. She still assumes that Munsch is the Red Devil, which I can kind of understand, but kind of not. I mean, I understand Chanel's point. I do. I get that, she thinks that because Munch didn't help them out, that she's the Red Devil. I totally do understand that. I mean, definitely, it does make sense. And there's again, everything that number 3 said last week does make sense as to why Munch could be the killer. I totally understand that. I mean, she's done some really shady things. We know that she killed, Steven, and that she framed Feather for the murder. So there is definitely concrete evidence there that could prove she is the Red Devil. Do I think that Munch is the Red Devil? Hell no. There's no way that Munch is the Red Devil. There is absolutely no way. And I'll talk about why in this episode. But basically, after Red Devil dramatically descends and exits an elevator, and after some baiting from Chanel, the Red Devil shoots her in the arm with an arrow. Now, I knew Chanel was not going to die, and I'll tell you guys why. I know there are 4 characters that are going to stay on next season, and that's my other thing this episode. Like I said, there's not enough people dead. There honestly isn't, because there's supposed to only be about 4 characters that survive this season, or that are on next season, and who do I think those 4 are going to be as of right now? Chanel is definitely going to be one of them. Chanel and Grace. You can't have Scream Queens without Chanel and Grace. Unfortunately, I mean, well, not unfortunately, because I like both Chanel and Grace, but I'm saying, like, they might not be my ideal choices, but you have to pick Chanel and Grace, so they're definitely going to be there. Other than that, I don't know who else, but Chanel and Grace definitely. I knew Chanel wasn't going to die. So as the Red Devil prepares to finish her off with a sharper weapon, Denise storms in to save the day, and apparently Denise is now hired chief of police. She's no longer a security guard, and I love seeing Denise actually being a police officer, not knowing how to hold a gun. This is the Denise I love. I've been a bit annoyed by her, but now that she's no longer part of the campus, and that she is the police officer now, I think it's really great. She clearly still doesn't know what she's doing, but she actually helped him out, and I like seeing that. So as she goes on about her job, finding a new killer on day one, I hope we see her next season. I mean, I really hope she doesn't die because she's really funny. She really is. I get that she's a stereotype and some people don't like that, but I think she's really funny. And she's so bad at being this police officer that the Red Devil ends up shooting and killing one of her armed guards. It was the funniest shit ever, honestly. I thought that was really funny, the way that happened. The Red Devil is also able to escape, and that's what happens there. Now, that is the only, really intense Red Devil scene we get here. The thing is, though, the rest of this episode is all plotting, and that's why it works so well. Again, there were no filler scenes in this episode. They've been doing that for the past 3 episodes, and it's been working very, very well, and this is a good example of that. So at Kappa Kappa Tau, Chanel is bandaged up. She tells all of them that it's clear that Munsch is the Red Devil because she was the only person who knew the Chanels would be at the mall on Black Friday. Again, I think these are good claims here. I do think Chanel's overthinking it a little bit, but, at this point, they're eager to find out who it is, and they need as much evidence as possible. So because of this, she has to be killed, and Zadie thinks this is an insane idea, but Grace agrees with Chanel. And I thought it was interesting that Grace agreed, and, Chanel thinks that killing Munsch will maintain a strong sister within their sorority, and both she and Grace take the lead on this one, with both of them declaring that the best way to kill Dean Munsch is via poison. That's the best way to kill her. So they're going to try to poison her, and I like seeing all of them together. This is something I really like, and I feel like we haven't gotten enough of this. It's been a lot of Grace and Zadie do this thing while the Chanels are here. Finally, this episode, just like last week, they all kind of seem like they were a family, and I like seeing that here. You really see Grace and Zadie included with the Chanels, and that's what I like. I don't want this, Chanels do this thing, Grace and Zadie are over here. I don't want that, and I don't think we're gonna get that anymore because, let's face it, some of them are gonna die next week. I know that's gonna happen. Number 5 is probably gonna die. Number 3, I don't know. I'm pretty sure she's gonna die. I'm pretty sure Chanel's gonna be the only Chanel standing next week. I see that happening, definitely, because I did hear they're doing a twist on the final girl scenario. I'm assuming it's gonna be Chanel and Grace as the last 2 because they are our 2 central characters. So basically, Grace tries to give her best smirk that she's on Chanel's level, but I thought it was interesting the way we saw that. So Chad holds a meeting for at the Dickie Dollar Scholars, and no one is there because he's literally the only one left because they've all been killed or they've just left, and the only other person there is Pete. And Pete, I've been back and forth with his character. I haven't loved the police investigation. I think he's been pretty boring. But this episode, they might have actually made him a very interesting character. I really like what they did with Pete in this episode. He was actually a really great character in this episode. Basically, Chad's upset by Boone's second death, understandably. They had a bond, and he wanted Pete there with him while he read Boone's will out loud, and this is only because Boone left all his material items to Pete. So Chad immediately assumes, because of his dirty mind, that the reason this happened is because Boone and Pete were lovers. Of course Chad would think this. I think this was really funny. I definitely really like this, and also, Pete and Chad just bounce off each other so well because of how serious Pete is juxtaposed to how ridiculous Chad is perfect. I loved it. I love this entire scene. I mean, I wish we would have gotten more of this all season long. More Pete and Chad, definitely. This was great. Pete assures Chad that he and Boone never had sex in his bed because they were never having sex, and Chad's skeptical, so Pete has to confess that Boone was his source, or his spy, into Greek life on campus. According to Pete, Boone gave him intel on how the system worked, and Pete would use this information in his little investigation writings. Now, this might not be true. We'll get into this a little bit later, but Chad still has a hard time believing Pete because a year ago, Pete tried to pledge Diggy Dollar Scholars even though he had no golfing experience whatsoever, and we get this great flashback where they're grilling him on why he's even pledging if he doesn't golf, have a banging abs routine, or listen to John Mayer, and they immediately turn him away. So we're starting to realize that the reason that Pete, went after Chanel and started stalking her, Chad thinks is to get revenge, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. I feel like there's more to that, and I'm going to talk about that when we get to the end of this episode, because there's definitely something I want to talk about. Chad offers Pete entry into Dickie Dollar Scholars because any friend of Boone is a friend of his, and Pete declines. I knew he was going to decline. I knew he wasn't going to join. Of course, like Kappa Kappa Tau, they're very messed up, and Pete feels that had Dickie Dollar Scholars not been running, the Red Devil probably would never have happened, which is true. I mean, we know that Boone was one of the Dickie Dollar Scholars. So Chad challenges Pete to a duel, and according to Diggy Dollar Scholars, any man who declines a spot on Diggy Dollar Scholars has to fight to the death, and Chad repeatedly asks Pete to name his weapon. Pete simply leaves. He doesn't want any part of this, and Chad does not warn Pete that does warn Pete that he will be murdered, and I think that was a great scene. I really love that. Yes, it's the only scene we get with Chad in this episode, but that's all we needed. That little stuff with Chad gave me everything I love, and I thought that was great. So Chanel and Grayson sit down with Munsch in her home, and I thought they came off pretty sincere here. I was really wondering how are they going to pull this off. I mean, Munsch is not stupid. She knows what's going on. So the two young ladies have come under the guise of starting a new feminist collective on campus and want Munsch to lead the charge. To commemorate their inaugural meeting, they give Munsch some apple cider that's laced with pufferfish toxins. Even number 3 told them that it only takes 1 drop to kill a person. So basically they did put in a whole vial. So they're pretty sure that this is going to kill her. And Munch is talking endlessly about feminist theory. She drinks, finishes her cider, and she doesn't die. She doesn't die here. She calls the drink bliss, and amazingly, I don't know how, but she does not die. And it was very interesting. So yeah, this was quite interesting what happened there, that she didn't die, and we thought she was going to die, but she didn't. So Grace tells Pete about her failed attempt at killing Munch, and Pete doesn't agree with Grace's plot to kill Munch. He just feels it's going too far, and instead tries to distract her with his Matthew McConaughey impersonation again. You know, again, that's pretty solid. Again, like I said, I think he does a pretty solid Matthew McConaughey. And Pete tells Grace about his experience at Dickie Dollar Scholars, and gets scary from him when he confesses that he relates to how the Red Devil's clearing away the scum from Caitlin's better than any administration ever could. And Pete quickly composes himself in time to tell Grace that he loves her while trying to get her to have sex with him. And Grace tells Pete that she wants to wait, possibly until after she kills Dean Munsch, and Pete's not feeling it, but I thought this worked well. I thought they did a good job at not making this stupid. I thought this could have been stupid, but they did a good job at not making it stupid. So Chanel asks if anyone has any updates on whether or not Munch has died or been admitted to the hospital near death. Apparently the ER saw only 1 admission that night, and the man admitted has fallen on Lego piece that was now lodged in his butthole, in his asshole apparently, and that man was Chad Radwell, of course. Of course it was Chad, and other than that, Munch seemed to be alive and well after taking a lethal dose of poison. So Grace, is out of the Munch murdering game. She does not want to do this. You know, she doesn't think it's a good idea, and she's kicked out, which, honestly, I thought this was justified, what Chanel was doing. I didn't think Chanel was bullying Grace here. I mean, Grace is backing out of something that she essentially started. She was all about this. She was the one that said, you know what, let's do it. I mean, everyone else, Zayday wasn't into it, remember? And now Zayday's into it. She's telling her, look, if Munch is the killer, there's no other way to do this. We have to kill her. If she's killing us, we have to kill her. And I definitely agree with Zayday. I mean, I think she definitely, again, what they're doing is justified, and Grace needs to understand that. I get that Grace doesn't want to take a risk and do something really bad because, you know, for all she knows, Munch might not be the killer, which we know she's not, but again, Chanel does have very valid points, but you know, Grace's opinion, I think, was really stupid here. And I totally understand. I do understand where Grace is coming from. I just don't understand, you know, why 1 second she wants to kill Munch and then she doesn't. It was very interesting. So because she has nowhere else to go, she visits Wes, and we actually get a really nice scene here. I really like the scene between Grace and Wes. You know, you see that he is upset about Gigi, mainly because he can't make, apparently, mixtapes for her. That's what he did best, is making mixtapes. And Wes realized that he really knew nothing about Gigi during the relationship. Absolutely nothing. Not even her last name. Apparently she lied to him about her last name because Pete found that her real name was Jess Meyer. And this was very interesting. He also found that Gigi was not there when the Tub babies were born, but her sister Amy was. And Gigi's real name is Jess, and Jess's sister tried to raise the babies as her own, but couldn't handle the stress, so she killed herself. And this led to a mental breakdown on Jess's part, and that's when she admitted herself to the psychiatric hospital with the 2 babies, and that's basically the story of that. So that definitely makes sense as to why Jess would go crazy. I think that definitely makes sense as to how she would become the Black Widow. I definitely think that would all make sense, and I definitely like... No, not the Black Widow, the Woman in Black. This is not the Black Widow. This is not Pretty Little Liars. This is not the Avengers. I don't know what I'm saying. You know, the whatever you call it, the lady that screams, you know, that Woman in Black thing. So Wes, Grace, and Pete theorize that Jess raised the babies as murderers to avenge her sister's death, and leaves to excitedly write about what he found. And Grace asks her dad for sex advice, and he's like, "You want me to write you a mixtape on that?" And he's telling her to wait until she feels ready because he knows what happened with her mother, of course, with Sophia, and he doesn't want the same thing to happen to her. So he doesn't, he doesn't want her to get pregnant and then have the guy not remember about anything, and he wants it to go well first. So I thought that was really good advice on his part. I actually really like Wes in this episode, I have to say. I mean, my only thing is there's really nothing with him and Boone here, but that's because Boone's dead, of course, so there's really not much they can do with that. So ready for round 2 to kill Dean Munsch, the Chanels and Zayde take her to a cryo sauna, and they plan to dip the temperature hundreds of degrees below zero and leave her to freeze to death in the enclosed sauna, which is very smart. That'll obviously kill her, And Munch is totally into this, she's really excited to just, get into this sauna, and happily goes first. And they don't hear any struggle or sounds of death, but, Chanel assumes that obviously she's frozen, so she wouldn't scream, which I understand. So they open the cryo sauna door after 27 minutes, and Munch looks like an ice pick. She's alive, and they are mortified that she's alive. She literally is, like, doing the peace sign, and she's completely alive. I mean, how do you survive from this? It doesn't really make sense. We'll eventually talk about why it makes sense, but that was really crazy. And while Munch won't die, P is in his dorm room frantically packing up, and this was very interesting. He gets a call. He aggressively does not want to talk to whoever's on the other line and invites this person to leave campus ASAP. He also tells this person to never call him again, and before he leaves, he opens his closet door to reveal a Red Devil costume, and now we know two things here. He's working with the Red Devil, and clearly he has killed some people. We know that because he has a Red Devil costume, he's in connections with the Red Devil, and clearly something's going on there. So I think the whole thing with him and Boone, they were clearly working together. That's part of the reason why he was in cahoots with Boone. It was not to get information. It was because he was working with him. Now, why he did this, I don't know. We don't really know what the backstory is yet, and I like the way they set this up because this is a lot more interesting. Pete has really seemed like a blank slate, and that totally makes sense because we've had no idea what's going on with him, and now we finally know, and I love that. Even though I don't want Pete to be one of the characters to remain on this show next year. I just don't want that to happen. So Chanel grills her girls on why Munch has yet to die. No one has any good ideas. I love number 5's joke about Teen Wolf reference. That was great when she thought that Teen Wolf was a documentary. Oh my god, she's stupid. She really is. But Hester has a really good theory here. She talks about Rasputin. Now, this is a real man. I looked this up. Basically, Rasputin was this man that whatever they did to him, he would not die. And after they froze him to death, they thought he was dead, he was still alive. He woke up a couple days later and ended up drowning, and basically Hester feels that they're not going to be able to kill Munch unless they drown her. That's the only way to kill her, and I thought that was very smart for her to say that. So she gives the girls so basically Chanel decides to drown Munch, and she gives the girls their Christmas gifts early, which are Samsung Edge phones, basically to contact them, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to essentially page them on their phones, which will flash red with an alert, and when they get this page, they're to meet with her in the pool where they will drown Munch. So it seems like this plan is very well thought out, and it seems like it's going to go very well. Until the following day, number 5, and Hester are panty shopping, and they miss Chanel's page because they're preoccupied harassing a sales clerk who refuses to swap out tags in the underwear. I mean, this was just so funny. The way that they were defending number 5 over this, I thought was so great. It was so shallow, and I loved it. I thought it was really funny, honestly. And they miss Chanel's message, unfortunately, so it doesn't go well. And then we get this really creepy scene from Munch. I thought this was really great, and Jamie Lee Curtis is actually really great here. Because you can tell that Munch was eventually not going to fall for this. I'm like, how stupid can she be? Is she going to keep falling for what's going on? I'm pretty sure she was just playing around the whole time because she confronts Chanel at the pool and she questions her, why are we alone? She asks her, why are we alone? Why have you brought me here? It's December. They should not be going into a pool. They're at a pool with a bag of chains for the feminist collective, and Chanel claims that she wanted to talk bondage and go for a swim, and Munch does not buy it. She leaves, and it was a very creepy scene. Definitely very interesting to see what's going on there. So, Chanel's pissed at them for their incompetence, and she begins writing a missive to end all missives. Now, what she's gonna do, I don't know what she's gonna do. We're gonna have to see what she's gonna do. I don't know what she's gonna do. It definitely is gonna be interesting to see what she's gonna do here, because I don't know what she's gonna do with this. So, that same night, we see Grace visits Pete, and I thought that was definitely interesting to see what this missive is going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. We'll have to see. Then the end of this episode, very, very interesting. It definitely goes with what we found out about Pete in this episode, and I definitely want to talk about because I definitely have a theory as to what this is all about. Grace visits Pete. He's still in his dorm room, which is dimly lit and fully packed, noticing the boxes. She asks where he's going, and Pete tells her that he needs to go away to write, and she asks to go with him. Now, obviously, you knew this was going to happen because she can't go back to Kappa Kappa Tau. She was kicked out, which I do think she's going to get back eventually, but Grace tries to get sexual, tells Pete that they can get a nice little cabin, he can write, she'll bring him slow cooker, they can eat short ribs. No, it's not gonna happen. Okay, her dreams are not, it's fantasy, it's complete fantasy. And, Grace then gets Pete onto a bed in the room, tells him that she's ready, and he tells her that that he's not ready, that that she doesn't know him, and that he doesn't want her to be her first time with a murderer, and that's how the episode ends. So yes, now we know that Pete has murdered someone. We now know what's going on with him. Now, what do I think this is about? Melanie Dorkus. That's what I think this is about. We know that Melanie Dorkus was murdered. They've talked about her a lot. They've brought her up a lot. The next episode is called Dorcas. That's the next episode. And I feel that Pete is the one that murdered Dorcas to essentially get closer to Chanel. That's why he did it. That's what the whole point of it was. And that's what I think this is all about. It has to do with Dorcas. And that definitely is going to be interesting what happens with that. Next week's the finale. Next week is the finale. And I can't believe it. It's honestly gone by pretty fast, guys, I have to say. But like I said, I was surprised that nobody really died in this episode. Besides that police officer, which was really funny, nobody else died. Certain characters, they're gonna die. I'm pretty sure Munch is gonna die. I'm pretty sure, most of the Chanels are gonna die. I mean, it's just there's certain characters that they could have killed off a while ago, and I would have been a lot more happier. But I do like the direction the show is headed. I'm just worried the finale is gonna be a bit disappointing. I hope it's not. At this point, I don't know who the killer is, and I like that. I like the uncertainty. I like not knowing who it could possibly be. There's this really weird theory going around that it's Chanel number 2. I doubt it. I don't know. Just no. IMDb apparently posts something about it. People can hack into that all the time. I don't think it's Chanel number 2. There's no way. They didn't really show anything in the promo, which I like they're keeping it secret. They clearly don't want us to know a lot about the episode, which I definitely like. Like I said, I like they're keeping it hidden. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. What is Chanel's missive going to be about? We don't really know. We do know that most likely this is the last we're going to see at Kappa Kappa Tau because I believe next season is going to be summer camp. Well, that's at least what the guy that played Wes says, who I believe is still going to be on the show next year, which I'm fine with. I think I'm starting to warm up to his character more. He's definitely becoming more interesting of a character. Pete, what is this connection to Boone? Why did he start working with Boone? That's my biggest question. I'm pretty sure he did to just get close to the Chanel, and like part of the whole Chanel situation was because of the Dickie Dollar Scholars. I feel like that's really how this all started, was Pete getting rejected from the Dickie Dollar Scholars. He asked the Red Devil, him, and Gigi to pair up. I don't think Pete was a, central, leader of it all. I do think that Gigi was the main leader here, but how this all, well, not her name, we now know her name is Jess, but this definitely gonna be interesting to see what happens there. What's gonna happen with Munch, we'll have to see. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. I really did love this episode. Even though nobody died, I still thought it was a really great episode. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for the Wiz Live. I cannot wait for the Wiz Live, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.